Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today we will be solving Troll-3. This is a particularly easy to medium level vulnerable machine, and so let's get right into it. So I will start off with the network settings which is required for both the Kali Linux and the Troll-3 itself. So for the Kali Linux, the network settings consists of two adapters. One adapter will be set to NAT. This is for the internet connection we require, and the second adapter will be set to host-only adapter, which will help us connecting to our vulnerable machine. Similarly, the network settings of Troll-3 well, not similarly, but the network settings of Troll-3 will consist of just the host-only adapter, as we don't need any internet connection in Troll-3 or in the vulnerable machine. So we just set it to host-only adapter, and we will be connecting our so that we are able to connect the Kali Linux to this vulnerable VM. So I have already booted up my Kali Linux OS and also Troll-3 OS. So when you log in into Troll-3, you will see such a prompt. It's written that welcome to Troll-3. Are you sure you want to do this? Login, start here. So basically, they are trying to give you a start account of Troll-3, a start user of Troll-3 with a password here. So I guess this is the thing which they want us to do, or they want us to start from this user. But before that, let's try to enumerate like what ports are open or any other thing which we can get apart from this credentials. So we go to the Kali Linux. So initially, I will do ifconfig, and I see that there are two interfaces, ETH0 and ETH1. The ETH0 is the NAT terminal, NAT interface. So this is used for my internet connection, and ETH1 is the host-only interface, which is useful for my connected to my vulnerable VMs. So I will run a simple net discover with in the interface ETH1, and we will wait for it to give us the required results. So yeah, we got the results. So there we get the three IP address. One is 192.168.56.1, one is .100, and one is .103. So .1 is specifically reserved for the IP address of the host. .100 is reserved for the IP address of the virtual DHCP server, Dynamic Host Control Protocol server. And The 103, this might be the IP of our target machine. So let's run an nmap aggressive scan. So basically, minus A is the aggressive scan. So the minus A will do an OS detection scan, will do a version detection scan, and a trace route. So here we get the results, and as we see, only the SSH port is open. So no other port is open. So we have to go for the user ID and the password provided by them in here. So let's try to SSH start at the rate 192.160.56.103. One more thing to note is that in the nmap aggressive scan, we also got the version number of the OpenSSL 7.6p1. So right now, as per my knowledge, there is no exploit for open exploit for this particular version. So if there would have been some open exploit, then we would have directly used a metasploit or something like that. But as there is no open exploit, so we have to do this entire thing manually. So I will go for this login, which is here. Great. So we got into the start user. Um, so we see there are two folders, but before that, let's check if this user has any root privileges or not. So I will do sudo -l. So this command lists all the root permissions which this user has, if any. So I give the password, and it says that the user doesn't have any sudo permission. So this user can't run anything as root. Okay, great. So now I will go to the first folder, which is the blue pill, which is mentioned. So there is a file named awesome work. So a mode of advice, guys, that when doing such pen testing work, whenever you do it in real life, try to never just see a file and try to open it, because it might be malicious. Always try to find what type of file is. That will give you more insight about the file. So to find the type of file, I will use the file command and I will give the file name. So this says that this file is a simple ASCII text. Okay, great. So I will do cat on this, and so this is a URL, a shortened URL, if I may say. So we should never, it's one more good practice to never use a shortened URL. So before using a shortened URL, we will unshorten it to find out what exactly is the link, shortened link is pointing to. So this is the website unshorten.me. It's a pretty good website. It's free, so you can unshorten any link, most of the links. So on, I will go for unshortening it. Yeah. So we get that the destination URL is lmgtfy.com with a query of how do you make a hacker time waste time. So that's pretty funny. So let's try to go to this link and see what it is. Okay, so it's a GIF. It's a GIF of it's a GIF teaching us how to do Google, how to search in Google about wasting a hacker's time. So this is a dead end for us. It's basically the machine trolled us, like its name. So this path is useless, but just for the sake, let's view the page source and try to see if there are any clues here. So these are just JavaScript functions. I don't think. Uh, so no, there is nothing of nothing of our importance here. So we will go to the other folder, which is the red pill, and it's claiming that this will surely work. Let's try to find the type of the file. It's an ASCII text. So I will now cat this. Okay. So like in the start of our troll machine, we got a login credentials of user start and a password here. Here also we got a credential of user step 2 and password is password 1 exclamation. So we will directly um, try to log in into it. So SSH step 2 step 3, and the password is password 1 exclamation. Okay, so did I type it wrong? No. So I typed it right. So this is them trolling us again, because this is not, this is also something which wouldn't work. So let's think about something else which we can do. So one of the things which I always try to do is when I get into a dead end. So as we see, this user doesn't have any root privileges. So we are stuck here because the two files which are given to us are also useless, and I don't see any hidden file which will help us. So what we can do at this point is try to search the entire file system if there is some file which we have a read, write, and execute permissions. Okay, so that will help us finding all the resources which we can use, being a user, being the this particular user. Okay, so I will do that using the find command. I will do find slash, I will give minus type as file. Okay, so basically find command gives find command tries to find a file in this root directory. Slash is the root directory in Linux. The type of the file is F, which stands for file. I want the permission to be 777, which is read, write, and execute. And I will, so basically this two greater than slash def slash null basically is useful to filter out the errors and the warnings. So as start is not a root user, so whenever it tries to, it executes the command find and tries to access some directory which it doesn't have permission for, the find command throws a lot of errors and we might not be able to clearly see our correct results. So this will prevent like displaying of errors. So I will execute this. So we got one file. This is the white shadow.cap file. So the .cap file, for the people who don't know, is a packet capture file. So whenever we do an authentication in the with the wireless networks, so we exchange packets like authentication packets or de-authentication packets or connection successful packets, establishment packets. So this is something which might have been like sniffed by a sniffer like Wireshark or some other tool. So white shadow.cap is a packet capture file. Okay, and generally the convention is that the file name is basically the name of the user who from the whom the request has been sent. So white shadow.cap is a packet capture file, and we got one other file which is the goldstar.txt. Okay, so these two files might be helpful for us in the upcoming stages. So let's bring it to our Kali and analyze it further. So I will use secure copy for that. Secure copy start at the rate 3, and we give the entire path here. And I want this to stay in our current folder. The password is here. Okay, so this is 3. We can do this, we can get both the files in the same command, but for your understanding purpose, I'm doing it in a separate command so that it's easier to understand. So, okay, so we got both the files. It's one is whiteshadow.cap file and one is goldstar.txt file. Okay, so let's see what this goldstar.txt file is. I will first try to find the type of file. So it is an ASCII text file, and white shadow.cap file is a pcapture file. Pcap capture file. So this is the packet capture file. Okay. So this goldstar.txt. Okay. So this looks somewhat like a dictionary of passwords, if you may say. So it can be a potentially list of possible passwords, and we can use it for a brute force attack. And so now I would like to point out that as we see a packet capture file here, and we see a list of passwords, potential list of passwords here, he can perform a brute force attack like using aircrack tool to find out if there is any password which uh, which is an authenticating password for this packet capture file. Before that, I would like to show you how the packet capture file is actually from inside. And for that, I will use the TCP dump command. Okay, so TCP dump. So TCP dump minus NN is resolving. So where the I want to display all the all the ports where the ports don't resolve to name. So basically, it stands for the entire all the number of ports. The TT is for changing the time format. The A stands for to print in ASCII format, and R is for reading file which I will be giving as an input. So I will give white shadow.cap sorry my bad cap as input, and this is the packet capture file. So as you can see, there are multiple de-authentication packets. There are de-authentication packets all over the place. So de-authentication is basically the Wi-Fi router is basically de-authenticating the user. Okay, so these are loads of de-authentication packets. In the middle of there are some acknowledgement packets. Okay, so this is basically the format of a of a cap file. You can also analyze this file using Wireshark if you are comfortable with Wireshark. So let's get into doing the brute force as I mentioned. So I will use aircrack minus ng. I will supply it with the word list and the packet capture file. So this is performing currently the brute force. We have to wait for a moment because there are nearly 32 lakh keys which need to be tested. So let's wait for a while. Okay, So we got the result. So this is the key that is found for our packet capture file. So this might be the password, and as I told you that the name of the packet capture file is a name of, can be the name of, it can be the name of the user. So let's try to log in. SSH white shadow 103, and you will use this as the password. Great, we got into it. Before that, I would like to save this password as it might be helpful. So I will create a pass file. I will save this password and I will keep it. So we got into this user white shadow. So now let's see what it has. So it has a file named ofun. Okay. Like always, we will try to find out what type of file is, and it is an ELF 64-bit executable. So, in different cases, like in doing real life pen testing, you should not directly run such an executable because it might do something harmful. Here, we will try doing that. I will try doing that, but you can perform different things like disassembling the ELF file and all sorts of things. But right now, I won't go into the details. So let's try it out. What it does. So it's printing some message in an infinite loop, and the message is I am crazy like a lynx. Okay, great. So this is kind of a dead end for us. Let's see if there are any hidden files here which can be of help. So no, there are no hidden files which can be of help. So we will, the next step which we can do is find out if this user has any root privileges or not. So I will do sudo -l and I will supply it with the password. So as you can see that this white shadow user can run this command in root, as a root in sudo. So this is like basically starting the Nginx service. So Nginx, for people who don't know, is a web server which can be used as a reverse proxy or as an HTTP server or different types of is a web server. The only permission this user has is starting the web server, not stopping or anything, but just starting. So I think our next next clue should be hidden somewhere in the Nginx server. So let's start the Nginx server. Before that, let's try to find out what are some basic configurations of this Nginx as it is specifically mentioned. So I will go to etc, I will go to Nginx, and then I will go to sites enabled and default. So this is the default configuration file of Nginx. So let's see which port it's listening. It's listening to port 8080 and the user agent is Lynx. Okay, so now I will be starting sudo service nginx start. So I guess the service has started. Let's do next start. Okay, so the service has started. So, okay, so we see that the Nginx server has started, and one more thing that I use netstart command. So this A stands for displaying all the listening or the non-listening address. As you see, it's all the states or the IP address of all the states are being shown. N is like displaying the numeric type, and P stands for showing the PID of the program name if present. Okay, so netstart command basically helps us finding all the ports which are open. So here we see that the Nginx server is up and running. So now, yeah. So now, as we saw that the user agent is Lynx, so we will use a command called Lynx. So this is a popular Linux command which acts as a command line web browser. And as you know that like when a Mozilla executes, when a Mozilla runs a page, then it sends its own user agent. Similarly, if I run it through Lynx, so that will mean that I am sending Lynx user agent. So that is the only user agent which is allowed in the Nginx server which we have just started. So I will do 3 port number 8080. Okay, so we got another set of credentials. So let's save it. So I will do pass and I will save it. Great. So I will repeat again. So we saw in the Nginx default configuration file that the user agent which is allowed was links. So links is a popular command line web browser. So I used that web browser to query my Nginx server. Okay, so that led me as links. User agent was allowed. It opened the page. It opened the page which the Nginx server was running, and it gave us a set of credentials. Okay, so let's log into that. So I will do SSH genflux 3, and this is the password. Okay, we got into this. So now we have two folder here. One is malicious, two files actually. Let's see what these files are. Okay, so one is malicious, which is an RSA private key, and one is xlogin, which is an ASCII HTML document, which is an HTML document. Okay, so as we see that this is a private key. See, this is an RSA private key which can be used for SSH handshaking. So this might be private key of some user. Okay, so which user? One probable guess could be that the user can be malicious. So how do we find out? We will just ls the home directory and find out if there is a user named malicious. So we see that there is a user named malicious. There are many users. One is Genflux, which we are currently logged into. We have already logged into Start, Step 2, and White Shadow. So malicious is another user. So it is possible that this private key will help us get like login into malicious. So let's go for it. So I will cat this and I will open another terminal of my Kali. I will create an SSH key file and now I will SSH malicious 3 minus I SSH key. So so don't forget, we also have one more file to check here. If we run into some dead end here, we will go back and we will try to search for something here. Okay, so let's try to log in. Okay, okay, sorry. So one thing you should remember. See, I forgot to change the permission. One thing is you should remember that the SSH won't accept any private key file if they are quote unquote too open. Okay. So before trying to use any SSH key file, you should always change its permission, and you should do it 600 SSH key. Okay. So now if I try to log in it, so I got the login access. Okay. So unsecure private key files are rejected by SSH. So we should always keep in mind to handle that with care. We should always change the permission to 600 for our SSH private key file to be helpful. Okay. So now we are in this malicious user. Let's see. Firstly, we have a don't even bother file. Let's see what's the file type is. So it is another ELF 64-bit executable. So before running that, let's check what are the sudo privileges of this particular user. So we won't be able to do that because we don't have any password for malicious. Okay. So we have no other option but to run this don't even bother file. So let's run this file and it asks for a password. Let's give it anything. Okay, so it legitimately asks for a password. So now one thing we can do is let's see what hidden files are there in this folder. So bash history is not less sst profile.sh and vim info. Okay, so let's look at first. Let's Okay, let's history file. So this is a sort of a history file, but it's of no use to us. So let's look at another file, which is the Vim info file, which can be helpful as it will be a big file. So let's do less and search for password. Okay, so the pattern is not found. So let's go line by line. We will try to look. It is basically the Vim. Uh, so Vim info file consists of all the command history or the history which is being logged by the Vim editor. So let's see. Okay, in the registered section we have a password. Okay, and this is a password. This is a password. So let's see if this can be helpful as a password. So I don't even bother. I'll give this password. Okay, it says wrong password. But this can be a correct password of sudo. Let's try to give it a password for sudo. Great, it worked. So basically, this was another way to troll us that this file, don't even bother, was asking for a password, and we gave that password, and it was showing us wrong password. But when we gave it as a password for malicious user, it was saying it is actually a correct password. So this is another way to for trolling us, but we went past it. It's great. So now we see that the only command which this user can run is don't even bother. So it can only execute this executable, nothing else. So this is a place where we can do some privilege escalation. As we can see that only this script can only execute, like this user can only execute don't even bother as root. So when it executes this, it is a root user. At that time, we can switch the user to the root and we will be successfully able to do that. So for that, I will just move this to a different file, temp file, and I will create a C file, which will be our don't even bother executable. So I will include unistd.h. I'll create a main, set UID as 0, set GID as 0. Don't worry, I will explain each and everything which I am typing. So uh, in this file, what I am doing is I am setting my user ID to 0 and group ID to 0. So basically, group ID 0 and user ID 0 is root user and root group. So I'm setting it to that. Then I am executing a command. So execl is belongs to a class of exec commands, which will help us, which helps to stop the current process and spawn a new process. Okay. So execl is replacing an old process with a new process. So using execl, I am spawning a shell. This is basically helpful in spawning a shell. Okay. So using XCCL, I am changing my user ID to 0 and changing my group ID to 0, and then so basically I'm converting myself to root, and then I'm executing a command which will spawn a shell. So inevitably, if everything goes right, we will get a root shell. Okay. So let's compile it. So it happened. And let's try it again. Okay, so it got compiled. It's a warning, so we can ignore it. So now let's do it. So my apologies, I have to give the okay. So now you can see that I have a executable of don't even bother name. So I can execute that. So I will do sudo dot slash don't even bother. Great. You see, we got a root shell, and I can confirm that I am root as seen by this. So I am root. So I cracked it. I am in the root user, and we were able to successfully escalate our privileges using this user. So this is what this Troll-3 vulnerable VM was all about. One thing, as you guys know, or for some people who don't know, that if this is a capture the flag sort of thing. So the capture the flag always ends with a flag. So we can search for the flag here. So how will I do is I will use the find command. I will search in the root with the name flag star. Okay. So let's try to execute it. If we find anything, so find anything, not yet. Okay, so yes, so I searched the root for all the files containing flag, starting from flag, and star is like a regular expression. So this means that the name of the file should start with flag, and the ending can be anything. Okay. So as we see, these are kernel level debug flags, so this won't be helpful for us. So we see there is a file known as slash root slash flag. So let's cat that file, cat slash root flag.txt. Okay, so it says that you truly are a Jedi, and so this marks the end of our this machine. So we were easily able to break it. So as you can see, this machine didn't require in-depth knowledge about any tools. It just required you basic knowledge of Nmap, of NetDiscover, of SSH, and obviously basic C language knowledge. So this was a pretty basic, easy to medium level machine, and I feel that this is a good starting point for the beginners. This machine, looking at this, people can get inspired, and then slowly they can move on to the more difficult machines. And I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please uh, press the like button and also share and subscribe the video. I will be back with some more videos of solving different vulnerable VMs. If any doubts, please leave it in the comments. And I hope I was able to explain myself clearly. Thank you for your patience and all the best. Enjoy yourself.